Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of Final Cuts by BVS Film Productions. Today, we have a special guest, Zach Carlin. He is the founder of Summit Chasers Network, LLC, and VP of Development at WinChoice USA Corporate. Zach, great to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Awesome. Hey, well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I'm living in Arkansas, born and raised in Canada. There's a lot of a gap to fill there. Small town Canada. Grew up as a country kid, and then ended up moving after a rocky ending to my high school career. Or moving to Las Vegas.
Cool.
And that's where I decided to. I became a professional fighter there. I had been fighting. I was a black belt by the time I was 8 in karate.
Wow.
And then I got into boxing when I was 12. And my dad, I'm the youngest of 6, and I was kind of my dad's last chance to having a kid to go to the NHL. So I rebelled against that a little bit, and then I ended up getting into a little bit of trouble. Go ahead.
So you went to hockey? You were going to go into hockey? Or you did?
Yeah, I did. I played hockey. I played at a high level, but my heart was always in kind of the martial arts and the boxing and that kind of stuff, which
Gotcha.
Parents didn't really, but it was much more taboo then than it is now.
Right.
So
how long ago was that?
Oh, that was in 2001.
Okay.
1 or 2. So that was when the only thing like the UFC was like UFC 1 or 2 where it was no holds barred, no gloves.
No gloves. I hate to say it. I love those fights. They were just
they're so much fun. Like the bare knuckle. They're the bare knuckle and
they didn't last long. At least the ones I saw.
No. Well, and there's no weight classes either. There was like, 400-pound guy could be fighting, a 120-pound guy. But it was cool because that's when Hoyt Gracie got really popular because he was the 140-pound guy who was beating
just
the heavier guys.
Up. Yeah.
So he was kind of the first martial art, like mixed martial artist in like the cage fighting scene.
Right.
Shamrock,
right?
Shamrock. It was him and Ken Shamrock were
always
kind of butting heads. Always. And that was kind of the big one because Ken was one of the first ones. Nobody gives him a lot of credit because Ken was really one of the first ones he had like the stand up, he had the physique, he had the boisterous, attitude, charisma.
Yeah.
To go in and really do it. He was one of the first ones. So that's what it was compared to. So I was, and again, town of 900 people. I was the only one there who even thought of even possibly doing that. So
wow,
it was a little taboo. So, and then my parents kept pushing me, or my dad particularly kept pushing me to play hockey, and I didn't want to, so I rebelled a little bit. And ended up not graduating high school immediately. I was actually homeless and ended up in an addictions unit.
Wow.
When I was 18, going on to 19. I spent my 19th birthday in an addictions unit.
And that's in Vegas.
That was in Canada.
In Canada. Oh, that's okay. That's where hockey.
Yeah, and then yes, exactly. But then again, me and my parents had a bit of a rekindling. We have a very good relationship now. I don't blame anything on them. It was all my own decisions. And that's when they even said, like, if you're going to do this by going in and fighting, because I had some amateur fights and I was traveling to the city and I was doing it.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the things that pulled me out of the addiction was just I had something else to obsess over, which was the martial arts and the sports in general.
Yeah.
And so they're like, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it. You have a sister that just moved to Vegas. So, and at the time, that was 2007, 2008. Like, you might as well do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it. So I was like, well, okay. So I moved from freshly clean 19-year-old kid from small town Canada. Let's move to Vegas. That's a great idea.
Sin City, as they say.
Yeah. And I tell everybody, if you're going to move there, if you can survive the first 6 months, you'll be fine. That first 6 months is rocky, though.
Yeah.
That first 6 months is rocky. But I did. I survived, and I lived with my sister. I trained. I had extreme couture, and then I ended up fighting professionally until 2013. So about 20, I was 24. Yeah, by the time I got injured. While I was doing that, it was kind of my first soiree into entrepreneurship, because you don't get paid a lot when you're doing that, especially when you're starting out back then.
Right.
And the promotion I fought for hasn't been around for a decade or more now. Superior Cage Combat. And I get paid, $1,000 to show, and if you win, you get another $1,000 or $2,000. But that's every 6 to 8 weeks. It's not very much.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to find a way to make money in between, and I'm from Canada, so I had no way to work other than with my commitments to the fight organization. So I had to start my own. I started doing like strength and conditioning coaching for some of the guys at the gym. So I just get paid, $20, an hour or something like that to put them through some, strength and conditioning. And that was kind of my first like business stuff, my experience and having to manage money and people and my time and that kind of stuff, a schedule. And then, so anyways, I got injured when I was 24. I got forced to move back to Canada with my former wife, and we ended up having a daughter. And I got into CrossFit. I realized, I didn't even realize you could compete in CrossFit. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I can compete in something and not get punched in the face. This is great. Right. I had realized I was a lover at the time, not a fighter. I had beat all the demons I needed to. I didn't need that anymore.
Well, kids also really settle you down. I mean, they do, you don't have a choice, right?
Oh, 100%. You really don't. And you start to think of like the examples you have to lead for them. Like, oh, she's going to be watching me one day. Like I need to set the example with my actions, not just my words. Yeah. And so I competed. I ended up competing all around the world. I competed in France, Brazil, Dubai, all over Canada, all over the US. It was a ton of fun. And while doing that, I became kind of a hobbyist entrepreneur. So I would buy gyms just because I wanted a cool place to work out at. Yeah. And I bought gyms, and I got I remember my first profit and loss statement I saw, and I was like, that is a really small number. Yeah. We have like 200 members paying $200 a month. Where's all the money? Doesn't work like that. And then you get and then I got obsessed with that number, making that number go up. So I really got obsessed with learning marketing, sales, leadership, having to make, again, just whatever I need to do to make that number go up. Yeah. I learned how to, this is what I wanted to do. And, increasing, your profit per square footage in a gym, how to get away from trading your time and space for money and do it more, online and bundle things.
Have you heard of Alex Amosi?
Oh yeah. Gym Launch. I actually worked with them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm very, very familiar with them.
What a guy.
I don't know if they existed when I was, he might have just been starting Gym Launch when I was doing that. Yeah. And, but I later on, we partnered, but I kind of got his idea because he started Prestige Labs, which was the supplement company that he would then use. That was B2B to C. Yeah. So he'd sell to gyms to sell to their clients. Yeah. And, so I did kind of the same thing. I had a sponsor, created a strategic partnership with them to come in and sell their products at our gyms.
Nice.
Yeah. So just learning how to, again, the strategic partnerships, the marketing, utilizing all that kind of stuff, and just the people. The people is the biggest thing I learned. Having the right people around you. So I ended up buying and flipping 6 gyms for a profit.
Oh, nice.
I did that 6 times, and then on my last one was one of my sponsors. We came in and we started a fitness equipment company, and he had already started, but I came in. It was doing about 1.8 million a year at that point, and then 2.5 years later, it was doing just north of 25 million. So we were able to scale that.
Fantastic.
We scaled that. Thank you. We scaled that pretty drastically. We had a lot of good pieces in place to make that happen. So it was really, really good. Cool. And then we ended up moving back to Vegas, and I started. We actually wanted to put all of our money into starting a gym in Vegas. That was 2019, end of 2019. We all know what happened then.
Yeah, right.
So we lost about $300,000 in that fiasco. So we lost everything. So I ended up having to. I actually worked for Netflix. So we had our son at the time now. We had a three-bedroom house. I had to work for Netflix just to get some money on the table during that time. So I ended up putting our office in our garage in the summer, in the beginning of summertime in Vegas. Yeah. That was awful. I remember having to making $13 an hour, had to set up this dinky little air conditioning unit like a foot away from me just to survive.
Oh, I've been
my
there.
Boxers. Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah. It's like everybody always has to continue to reinvent themselves,
100%.
Just in the changing economy, the world we live in, that's one thing I've learned in my time on this planet. You have to be prepared to reinvent yourself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's identifying the skills that you have too. I realized, I had level 10 skills in building businesses and teams and sales and marketing, but I was using it in like a level 2 or 3 opportunity, which was just running a gym. Yeah. Right. As opposed to, I could teach this to other people. Right. There's your level 10 skill. It has to align with a level 10 opportunity. So that's when I partnered with my former partner, where we started a leadership and sales consulting company. Actually, we started our little dinky gym
Mm-hmm.
1,100 square feet in downtown Las Vegas. We actually scaled that to doing about $200,000 a month just in that little small place.
Yeah.
And then we ended up getting clients that, hey, a lot of the stuff you're doing to work with my sales team. We're like, okay, cool. Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
And we crushed it.
Wow.
So then we went right into sales and corporate leadership, coaching and consulting. Did that for about two years with some pretty cool companies. And then just some core value differences. I wanted to do my own thing. I had a lot of great ideas. I wanted to expand. And that's where we kind of ended up now with Summit Chasers.
Okay. So that's what you're doing now. So tell me a little bit about the type of clients that you look for with what you're doing. And what exactly would you do for them, let's say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate the question. So we work with our passion. First of all, as I just explained, I don't have a typical like MBA background. I didn't have a family that had a family business that I could learn to run, right? But we've identified that so much of our innovation comes from small businesses. Like right now with all the AI coming out,
wow,
the way we use video marketing, SaaS technology in general, even in the home improvement industry, all of this great innovation comes from small businesses because they can take the risk. They have to in order to compete.
Right.
So our future is based on the success of a lot of these innovative, my cough's rubbing off on you, a lot of these innovative companies, these small businesses. So what we look for is the people with ideas, the problem solvers who don't have, the typical success driven background and just want to solve a problem and do great things and improve the world. And that's who we work with. We want to increase, the statistics change all the time, but it's something like 40% of small businesses go out of business in 2 years. That's usually how long initial capital lasts, is 2 years. So they don't even get past the fact that their initial capital lasts.
Yeah.
From there.
My first company, I bought desks, I bought that. Me and my partners, we bought all kind of crazy, stupid things. I was 25, and 10 years later, you're like, I'm still paying for that desk.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, we try to start these businesses based on these other businesses that have been around for 20 years. And they have all the fancy stuff. We only see highlight reels. Yeah. So we want to skip right to the highlight. We don't see all the crap we have to go through at the beginning in order to get there, in order to create the highlight reels, right? A Rocky montage lasts 30 seconds. It takes some 3 to 10 years sometimes for that montage, when you're a business owner.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, and I think it's 40% go to business in the first 2 years. And then in the next 5 years, I think it's like something crazy, like 60% or something like that go to business. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So our purpose is really, I want to cut those percentages down drastically. I want the success of a small business, of a dreamer, of a problem solver to be expected, not something that's like an anomaly. Right. So that's what we do with Summit Chasers is we come in and we implement best business practices, foundational best business practices, starting right from personal development, from an owner leadership perspective, because you are always going to be the biggest ceiling. You're going to be the biggest backlog that your company goes through when you're trying to scale, because you can't scale past you. Right. So you have to elevate yourself. Right. And then it goes from there to, finding what your company vision and purpose is, unifying your team around that, mapping out your processes, procedures and processes, creating training plans, increasing your talent density. How do you hire? How do you identify who to hire? What types of positions should you hire for? How do you replace yourself? And then from there, we go into, when you have a good foundation, then we go into marketing and sales tactics from there. But we don't do any of that until we have solid foundations, because you can't build, like if I was to build this pen on top of each other, it's not going to go very far. But if I build out a big base, right, it'll stack up and grow much higher. Yeah. So that's kind of what we do with our clients. Yeah,
that makes sense. And one thing I'm learning in this business that we have, the video production world, is to scale this, you need to have to be able to have 80% of your work being done somewhere else, and you just manage it, and that's how it grows, or even more, depending on what you're selling or doing. And that goes for podcast production too. I mean, that's the other end of our business. And we see the same thing. It's got to be 80% has to be done either somewhere else or by somebody else, and you just kind of manage it. So it's interesting how that works. Speaking of video, this is what this podcast is usually about. It always ends up going into different places, but so how does video play a role in what you're doing?
It increases your impact.
Yeah.
By far, right? That's how you gain trust. Like if we have a goal of helping 10,000 of working with and helping 10,000 business owners create the life of their dreams.
Yeah.
Right. it would be really hard to do that if I was just running around towns, shaking hands, talking to people, right? And it's hard to get your personality. And I think a lot of people use it in the wrong, almost use it in the wrong way too, where they're just trying to say, oh, this is how great I am. This is what I know, as opposed to like actual connection. Like video, like we have such a unique thing with video and media in general is to connect with people.
Yeah.
To be real and to get outside of the highlight reels that we see on, TikTok and all this kind of crap, and just be real and connect with people. This is who I am. This is my favorite movie. This is the mistakes I've made. Now I can be real with you.
Yeah.
Right?
And we, you see the most successful people out there in that world that's exactly what it is. They're very real, and they're not selling. They're just giving. They're all just
100%.
giving,
100%. And it's your video. I mean, we're all such visual learners for the most part. We're such visual learners.
Yeah.
And they're seeing that there's an increase in people who are visual learners, but it's, again, giving. With video, you have more opportunity to give, more opportunities to get. You have more opportunities to give what you have and to create success in other people. Like if I want to help 10,000 business owners directly with video, I could help 200,000 indirectly. Right.
Yeah.
There's so much more opportunity to help.
And
100%.
right. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Well, cool. So the future of your industry, what do you see it like? Where do you see it going?
I saw that question. I thought that was a good one.
Well, no, I'll give you a hint. AI.
Yeah. Well, AI is great. I know. I think with AI, obviously, because of the way technology is going, and because of AI, there's going to be so much of our skill set is going to be, everyone's going to have the same skill set here soon when it comes to ad copy, when it comes to email writing, email copywriting. Your websites are going to look, they're just going to be just as good. They're going to be just as high. They're going to hover between, a 7 and a 9.
Yeah.
Right. Give or take how you utilize it. So all that stuff eventually it's going to be, everyone's going to be just as good at a lot of stuff. But what's going to separate us is going to be I don't know if anybody on here is watching or if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni. He's been saying this for decades, that the biggest advantage you're going to have is organizational health. So what type of people do you have on your team? What's the level of people on your team? Are they all bought into the same mission and core values? Are they driven towards the same goal? Or is everybody on the same page? Is everybody doing the things that they should be doing? Because everything else is going to be, like I said, we're all going to have, like, CRMs are insane these days. Like we all have the same data reporting processes here pretty soon. Yeah. Right. There's so
automated messaging. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Omnichannel. A whole nother podcast.
Oh, 100%. Like all these omnichannel software companies that are out there right now and then you just plug in your ChatGPT 4.0 into it. Right. And then you have like the best chatbots. Yeah. They're going to come out with version 4.5. Everyone's going to have version 4.5.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be very hard to stay ahead of that game. So you can right now because there's still at least a little bit of a gap between innovations, but pretty soon the gap is going to be so short, and people are going to have teams of people who are just getting ahead of that stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be just as good at that stuff, but the big difference is going to be who's the best people you have on your team, how are you managing and leading them towards a defined vision and goal.
Right.
And then how do you keep bringing in those? How do you attract and bring in those great people? Reed Hastings, he's the former CEO of Netflix. He had a great book about that. It's called No Rules. And it was just all about where the industry is going, like creative industry is going, the tech and how you utilize it and all that kind of stuff. Everyone's going to have the same stuff, but the best companies are going to have the people who take care of their people, compensate them properly, and let them be creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's a big place where I think the industry is going. It's just not as fun to talk about because AI is cool.
Yeah. And you know what? I still think there's going to be a need for human interaction. I think, that it's going to take a while for that to go away at some point, at least from the B2B world, B2C. You can go on Dell's website and order a computer. I inevitably have to end up talking to a real person anyway because the computer never does it right.
Exactly.
The ordering, I don't know why, but I see that more and more. But and I agree with you 100% on, it's going to be a level. And I've seen this all the way back to when we used to create brochures. Okay, that's dating myself.
Yeah.
It would be PageMaker came out, everybody was a page designer. Next thing you know, websites came out. everybody was a web designer. But that cream of the crop are the ones that were able to stay ahead of the curve and able to move forward and kind of look where that puck is. Nowadays, it's like you don't even know it's going to be a puck, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's going.
Yes, it's moving so
Anyway.
fast. Yeah, exactly. Because back then, I mean, if you got ahead of something, you were a year ahead of some people.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And you could stay there for a while.
And you could stay there because then you had the capital, you took advantage of it, and then you had the the mind power, the people power to then stay ahead of the next thing, and then you were 10 months ahead of them at that point, right? So but now it's like a week, it's like a month, like something new's coming out. It's so much harder to stay ahead, and it's going to get to the point where things are going to change, in a week, or they're just not going to change at all because it's just constantly we got to be there's be ChatGPT and a few other AI tools and then a few other CRMs. And they're just constantly changing. So everybody's going to be on the same page eventually. Everyone's going to be on the same level. So it's going to be so much harder to stay ahead. But again, the difference is going to be the people that you have on your team to do so.
Right, right. So my next question is two parts. It's and if you can answer either one if you like or both. So what would you tell somebody starting off in MMA and then also your current business that you're in?
Okay, I'll start with MMA because that's going to be an easy one. Don't do it. just don't do it. No, if you're somebody who, the thing with martial arts and the reason I got out of it, and I should have got out of it sooner, is because it's one of those things, it's one of those sports, you don't play fighting. Like you don't go out on the weekends and, I mean, you can, everyone's seen Fight Club. I mean, some people, this generation maybe hasn't, but the new generation hasn't, but you don't play it. Like there's consequences. Like you can go to your self-defense classes, go do jujitsu, go to kickboxing, but to actually get in the ring and compete, if you're not 100%, that's what I want to do with my life, and you're young and you're hungry and that's what you're going to do, and you have people that are going to support you to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just don't. It's not a hobbyist thing. I went to Thailand for a month and trained in Muay Thai with them for a month. I thought I was good. And then I went there. Mm-hmm. Like these are kids that since they were 4 years old were kicking trees.
Yeah.
Just they just kick trees to train their shins, so their shins would harden, right? They'd get micro fractures in their shins, and it would calcify over and create hardened shins. And they were doing that since they were 4. So you get touched by one of those guys, but they're a different human, right? So you want to get into a sport where there's that type of dedication, that type of cultural impact. And you're going to fight somebody like that who was built to do it by the time they were born.
Yeah,
like if you're not in it 110% and you're young enough, just don't do it.
Or a condom,
just don't do it. Well, she came up when you can still get away with that. These days, if you're new coming up, like if you're a young kid, if you're 18 years old right now, and you haven't trained a day, like you're 10 years behind at this point. Like you got 100%. I did gymnasts and all those kind of things. If you're not training by the time you're little, you don't have those, that awareness. And it's the feeling of having a human being push on you and try to drag you down and choking you. It's a different feeling than it looks like on movies.
I believe it.
Like it sucks. It's different. So if you don't have that, just don't do it. Anyways, I spent too much time there. The other one was getting into business.
Right. Yeah. Getting into your current business that you're in now. If they're just starting out, got injured in MMA, what do they do?
Same advice. No, I'm just joking. Well, this is going to be probably a pretty cliche answer, but it's the top place to invest, which is yourself. Like if you, like I don't know if everybody can see, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but that's one of 2 bookshelves that's completely full.
Yeah.
Right. Last year I read about 84 books, and that's not a lot compared to some people, but that's 84 books I've read maybe more than once, and I took notes on, and I studied it, and I implemented it into our frameworks I teach to people, or about my own businesses and that kind of thing. You have to invest so much into yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you want to start a business, again, like I had said, you're the biggest thing that's going to hold it back. You're the block. You're always going to be the block. You can't have $100 million business, a sustained, long-lasting, healthy $100 million business if you have a $10 million mindset and skill set.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they say, well, you can hire people who know how to do that. Well, you have to manage that person that you're hiring. And a lot of times,
to you for
exactly. And there's benefits. There's benefits that people don't talk about, and it's the benefit of being around you. So if you hire an A player to run your $100 million business, and they don't get any benefit for being around you, and I'm not just talking about 401k, I'm not talking about your health plans or dental and all that kind of stuff. if there's no benefit for being around you, if they don't get pushed, if they don't improve, because A players, their biggest, especially millennials, and I can't remember what the other generations are, but the biggest thing that we kind of look for, that we find valuable, is improvement, is being pushed forward, right? Is development, right? So if you don't have those, if you're unable to offer that benefit to A players, then it's going to be very, very, very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, because nothing's impossible, but it's the likelihood of your success is much lower. So it's to constantly be, and just invest in yourself. Whether it's courses, I was going to say courses, but I'm not really big on courses, because sometimes people will take courses and they're just kind of, a lot of them are money grabs, and they just give you letters by your name. But courses, webinars, conferences, last year, 2023, I went to eight different conferences, a couple different workshops. You got to constantly, once you think that you're done, you got to start over. Once you think you're done, you empty your glass and start over, right? Learn more. So that would be my biggest kind of foundational advice. And then from there, it's just make sure you surround yourself with great people. Define what that is, and kind of, I would say, change what you define a friend as. Because when we're growing up, we define friends as somebody who's in our vicinity that has fun with us. I mean, and that's that can turn toxic really quickly. But if you're trying to be a successful business person, or successful person, a great person in general, you need friends. You almost need, they call it like the inner circle. You need somebody on your team in that inner circle that's going to call you out, push you, gonna not let you off the hook, gonna not listen to you bitch and complain about your life. They're gonna call you out. They're gonna push you to achieve the things you want to achieve. And likely there'll be people who are above you who can pull you up with them. And it's not to say if they're below you, push them away, but if they're not helping you, if they're not pushing you positively, if they're holding you back, they want to go party, they want to do all this kind of stuff, then they shouldn't be in your inner circle. So invest in yourself and be really, really picky with who's in your inner circle.
That's great advice. So how can people reach you?
LinkedIn, Zach Carlin, or Summit Chasers Network on LinkedIn, summitchasersnetwork.com.
We'll have it in the notes.
Perfect. We have a webinar coming up on the 1st of February. Stay on those business plans. Keep rocking those business plans. Don't let the February blues knock you down. But mostly LinkedIn would be probably the best place to reach me.
Well, sounds good. Okay. Well, thanks again for being on our show, Zach. We really appreciate it. Very interesting. I really get a kick out of. I had a couple of people on in the MMA world, and it's a real interesting story, which was great, and also your business as well. So that wraps it up for our episode of BVS Film Productions Final Cuts, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day. Awesome. Let me do a quick shutdown on the end recording. Where did it go?
This is when all the good stuff happens.
Exactly. Pause. I think it's stop it. Stop recording.
Let's face it, everybody loves to make podcasts and vodcasts, but nobody wants to edit them. Well, except for us. At Premier Podcast Productions, we professionally edit and distribute podcasts and vodcasts for companies around the world. Our process is simple and affordable, allowing you to stay focused on what you do best, developing great content and building your subscriber base. From recording and editing to final distribution and marketing, we can help every step of the way to make your podcast stand out and get the results it deserves. Contact us today at premierpodcastpros.com to take your podcast to the next level.